How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Baking World Tour, where we try and make something from every country in the world. And today's country is Burkina Faso. And these little things are called banfora. They are kind of like Welsh cakes, with the addition of pineapple. They're super light and crumbly. They're also nice and moist and tasty. And the pineapple pieces and the cinnamon sugar coating really make it something special. They will go down perfectly with your morning coffee, so let's get to it and see what we need. Some all-purpose flour, some cold butter that's been cut into cubes, sugar, some dried pineapple, actually dried my own pineapple, but you can easily use store-bought. Now we need some salt, some baking powder, and an egg. These things are actually cooked in a pan, so we'll use a combination of butter and oil. Now as for the equipment, we'll need a pan, a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, we'll need a cutter, a spatula, and a rolling pin. Simple ingredients, simple equipment. This is a really easy recipe. Now grab a large bowl, add the flour, salt, baking powder, and the sugar. Mix it all up well to distribute the ingredients evenly. Don't be shy, use your hands. Once everything's nicely mixed up, add the cold butter. And it must be cold. We have to rub this together with the flour mix. And if your butter is soft, it'll only turn into a paste. If you ever made biscuits before, you'll know this process. Simply coat the butter in the flour mix, and then start by pressing it together with your fingers, and you can continue by rubbing the mix together. And take your time, this will not be a quick job, it'll take around 3 minutes at least. You don't want any large chunks left in the mix, it needs to be all nice and crumbly. And this is exactly how it should look. It kinda reminds me of moist sand. Now this is looking perfect. I'm going to continue by adding the dried pineapple. And crumble that in as well. You want to coat the pineapple in the flour mix. That'll ensure that all the pineapple pieces are separated and not stuck together. And only now add the egg. That's the last ingredient for the dough. In this recipe, unlike most of my other recipes, gluten is our enemy. We don't want any of it. So you want to be pretty gentle when you make this dough. We are not going to knead it. Simply mix it and press it together. It'll become kinda chunky. Once you get to this stage, clean off your hands and tip the dough out on your table. This process is very similar to making a scone actually, so if you made those before, you'll feel right at home. Now the dough is still a bit too crumbly, we need to press it together so it's nice and uniform. So using the palms of your hands, sweep it all together and press it into one ball. And you can give it a few folds as well, simply flatten it out and fold it over, then turn it 90 degrees and repeat. Do this 4 times. And this is what it should look like when it's done. It is nice and uniform, but it's also soft and loose. And that will make a nice crumbly biscuit, or Welsh cake, or banfora, call it what you want. Now grab some flour and dust both sides and the table, quite generously. And as I always say, before you start rolling anything, press it out by hand first. Get it into a general shape before you continue on with the rolling pin. And be nice and gentle when you roll it, because if you press too hard, the rolling pin is going to go straight down to the table. Roll the dough until it's about 1.5 centimeters thick, or a little over half an inch. Take your scraper and smooth out the rough edges, and then give it one more rolling so it's nice and smooth on the top as well. Smoothing out the sides will ensure that you get more biscuits out of one batch, because as we all know, every subsequent batch will be worse than the first one. Now grab your cutter and cut it up. Be aware that the pineapple pieces will get in the way, or you can simply pick them off. I must say these things, they're a little bit fragile, so do be careful when you're handling them. So a gentle touch and some patience is what you need. And there you have it, they look pretty good so far, right? Now leave them on the side, on a tray or on a plate, and cover them with some cling film or with a kitchen towel, whilst you're rolling the second batch so they don't dry out. And to make the next batch, simply collect the trimmings, press them together, just as we did earlier, and you can repeat the exact same steps. Flatten it out, roll it, smooth out the edge, roll it again, and cut them once again. And repeat until you run out of dough. Now clean down the mess, grab your banfora, and let's head over to the stove, where we have the preheated pan waiting. Temperature control here is extremely important. These things will take around 10 minutes to cook fully, so if your pan is too hot, they'll burn before they're ready. So into your pan, add a bit of oil and a knob of butter. Using butter as well as oil prevents the butter from burning. And once it's melted nice and foamy and covered the whole pan, place your banforas in. And we're going to leave them and not touch them for at least 5 to 6 minutes. They will become pretty soft and fragile, so once we go to turn them around, we need to be really careful. At this point I realized that the spatula I showed you earlier was way too small. You need a nice wide spatula like this one. Carefully lift up the biscuit and flip it over, and try and not destroy the other ones while you're at it. With a little bit of patience, everything's possible. And once you flip them all, keep cooking them for around 6 more minutes. If you don't want to mess around cooking them in a pan, you can cook them in the oven. 150 degrees Celsius, fan off for 30 minutes. And that is 300 degrees Fahrenheit for my American friends. But keep in mind that cooking them in the oven will not get you that buttery fried goodness. So as always, a bit more effort will produce a better result. But they're good either way, to be honest. Right, here's a little last minute addition. I'm going to sprinkle them with cinnamon sugar as soon as they come out of the pan. This will give them a nice sugary crunch, and the cinnamon works really well with the pineapple. So be generous and sprinkle it on in a thick layer whilst your biscuits are still warm. Don't worry about putting too much. In fact, you want to put too much, because most of it will fall off anyway. But there you have it. That's how you make Welsh cakes of Burkina Faso. These things are seriously good. I never expected it. Have you ever tried this exact thing? Have you ever tried a Welsh cake? Let me know down in the comments. And check out some more videos on my baking world tour. We've almost done all the countries that start with the letters A and B. And click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because if you love bread and baking, you've come to the right place. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.